IBM did a poll, so I rely on this sometimes when I teach. They did it in 2010, and they asked 1,500 CEOs, what is the most important thing? You're the leaders right now, but as we move forward, what's the most important trait or characteristic that leaders, future CEOs, will need in the next 10 years? And the prediction was, as you might guess, right, just after the financial crisis, that integrity, trust, authenticity, these are all good words, right, that these would show up. The big surprise, and why it made the news, I guess, at some level, was creativity was the first item that was identified. Number one, most of the CEOs of this sample of 1,500 said creativity is the trait that's going to be most important in business leaders in the future. My argument is creativity is like a muscle, in that if you haven't used it and you don't use it, right, you start to lose it. My big push today, what my hopeful take-home for you is four things, right, that can help you improve your creativity. And the first thing to tell you about creativity, interestingly, is observation is linked to creativity and helps us get away from what we call the sample size of one problem. And what's the sample size of one? Narcissism. It's you. Yeah, narcissism. We always think that we are like everybody else, that we are the center of the universe and whatever's around us is like us. But it's not. And that hurts us with respect to our creative mindset, because creativity is about bringing different things together. And if you only focus on yourself and you don't observe the world around you, right, you don't have the material to be creative. There's interesting studies in psychology done just in the last few years that have pointed to the fact that people that actually travel around the world are more creative than people that stay in one location. And the argument is that that observation of other cultures, of other people, is something that can enhance your abilities to be creative. And the second big thing is inspired by a story with my MBA class. Now, I teach creativity in the MBA program, and one of the activities we do, right, is we bring in a whole bunch of Lego. Bring in the big box of Lego, and I put it down, and they're like, yay! Right? No notes today, right? And I say, you've got an hour and a half to play, right? And do you know what happens? They all discuss amongst themselves, right? And then they all start building, and they build it, right? And then they stand back, and it's only been like 25 minutes. And they say, we're done. And I'm like, do you want to destroy it and start all over and do different? Nope. We've accomplished the goal. We have played. And so I say to myself, this is odd, right? And this happens more times than not. Why? Right? Again, the education system reduces us to very linear, efficient, straightforward people. And we lose that ability. When you think of kids, right? They like to destroy things and add things and start all over, burn it down, build it up. And we don't do that anymore. Play is fundamental in creativity, because play means that you will take bits and pieces of things that you know and play with them. A playful mind creates new. Some people say that creativity is really about mashups. Those of you know what I mean by mashup, but it's the collision of all the different things that we know. There's nothing truly new in the world. It's just a recombination, a mashup of all of the bits and pieces of our experiences. This is the third one that I want you to work on. We as humans basically are engineered to be efficient and conservative. And what I mean by that is we learn simple rules, often called scripts or heuristics, to make our life easy. Right? Why? It's because we want to save energy, save our brain, save our physical energy. So we follow what's called the path of least resistance, as we call it in psychology. That we take the easiest path to whatever it is we're doing. And often it means we run on autopilot. If you're like me, when I get up in the morning, I have an automatic routine, right? I head to the shower, go into shower, wash hair. Sometimes I don't remember if I wash my hair, so I have to do it twice. A lot of what we do is meant to conserve energy. And so when it comes to creative tasks, or you're given a task, the default is always fall back to the solution you know. It's our natural inclination to do what we know. And that's an enemy of creativity. This notion of path of least resistance makes our life easy, but it also makes us very routine. So this would be the third thing that I'd challenge you to think a little bit about. Right? When you think about your routines, fight with them a little bit. It makes you a more creative person. My last one, right? And I don't know if any of you know the Marshmallow Challenge. Heather's like, I love this one. What the Marshmallow Challenge is, right, is you create these little towers made out of spaghetti and string and tape, and at the very top you put on a marshmallow, right? And it's a little silly fun exercise. You do it in groups of 4, takes 19 minutes. And what happens, right, just like my play example, right, is you get in your team and you plan what you're going to do, and you map out how the tower should look, right? And then you build it, and at the very end, time's running out, you put on the marshmallow at the top. And what happens probably 70-80% of the time is what? Collapses. You can look at different types of people, and they're good or bad at this. So the worst at this, right, is business people, right? No, true story. And lawyers are a close second, sorry to say. They're well below average, actually, in terms of performance. And you'd say, well, why, right? Well, again, just like the play, in business school and law school, you're trained in a very linear fashion. Find the best solution, work towards that, and win. Who's good at this then? And they say, well, interestingly, a group that beats on average, right, most adults, is kindergarten students, right? And the question is, well, why? They don't have one linear solution. They play and experiment. You don't pursue things in a linear fashion, but instead you prototype and you experiment, often called fast failure, right? Because it helps you be creative. And so this is, to me, is a very fun example, right, of number 4, which is you need to experiment more. Creativity is a skill that you should put in your toolbox. And if it's something that you haven't thought about, my challenge tonight is to think about it. Where do you sit on that continuum? Is this something that you can say, this is in my skill set? And if it's not, my challenge to you is to debate whether it's worthwhile to pursue some of these activities to make yourself a little bit better.